Hi everyone. Today I wanted to fill out some of your notes on the fretboard. We haven't learned all our strings yet. We're about to learn the fourth string very soon, but I want you to start to see this all filled out to put together all of the things you've already started to learn. You've probably got several patchwork ideas of where your notes are, and I'd like to see them connected now, give you a bit of a framework for the concepts that you're looking at. As you learn new strings, you can keep seeing them sort of randomly, and I want to put them all together so you can organize and figure things out a little bit on your own again. We've learned from day one that you've got your 6 strings. This is the lowest one to the highest one. The lowest is this one. It sounds the lowest, although it's the furthest from the floor. The highest is this. We have a saying to do all of these. Eddie ate dynamite, goodbye Eddie, EADGBE. You should be writing that out consistently, drawing this picture on scrap paper and throwing it away, but repeating it over and over so you memorize these things. If you really want to study your guitar, you actually have to do that just like you would at school. You actually have to write things down, study them, rehearse them in your head, practice them. So this, EADGBE, you should be writing out. You should also practice writing it the other way, EBGDA and E. You want to know those strings backward and forward randomly. This is G, this is A, this is B, this is E, there's a D, there's an E. That's how well you want to know your open strings. You should have this at least in one location in your book. The inside cover of your Hal Leonard is a good place. The inside cover of your notebook. Various places where you've worked on it would be nice. When we learned these notes, we learned them in a bit of a haphazard manner, but I kept showing you that they come from the alphabet and they are alphabetical. So in Jingle Bells, we learned E, F, G, and then the C and D on here. If we were descending, you could hear this going alphabetically, G, F, E, D, C, B. So we go down one string toward the open note, switch strings, and go further left to get lower. So from right to left is low. The open note is the lowest note that that string has to offer. So say we're there, we've got E, F, G on one string, B, C, D on the next. When we learned the third string, it was G and A. If you're going the other way, you see that G is the end of the alphabet, A starts the alphabet again, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G, F, E, D, C, B, A. So if G is followed by F is followed by E on the descent, then F and E must be located on the D string. So F is lower than the G, E is lower than F, the open D is lower than the E. C, of course, is lower than D, B is lower than C, and A is the open. Then we get another G, F, and E. We know that's going to be G because it's the note lower than this A, so we have to find it on the lower string. We also know that both E strings must have the same notes, although in different octaves. Notice you've got an open E here, an E in the middle of the guitar, and an open E here. You've got a high G, a G roughly in the middle of the guitar, and a low G. So the notes are repeating themselves alphabetically. From this open A string, we would have A, B, and C. Switch strings for D, E, and F. Switch strings for G, A. Switch strings for B, C, D, and for E, F, G. This E, F, G would be the remnant of a scale left over that's ending on this lowest string. So E, F, G, then we switch to A. So everything's alphabetical ascending from there. It'd be useful at this moment to be reviewing your notes on your strings again in the book. Page 6, page 8, page 11 for strings number 1, 2, and 3. We're at about page 15 now, getting ready to learn string 4, but I'm skipping that for today. On page 22, you can learn the A string. On page 24, the E string. So when you learned your notes, we started mostly learning on this string. We learned E, F, G. We learned B, C, D, G, and A. At first, your brain would have grasped a pattern. It would have said, oh, would you look at that? We're always going to play open, first, and third. Yeah, look, we do it here again. Open, first, third. When you encounter the G string and you do open and second, your brain throws away that old pattern, abandons it completely, and says, nope, everything's arbitrary. It's all random. It's not random. It's just not the pattern that was apparent before. When we get to the D string, just like the G, we see an open note and a second fret. But now there's a third note again. The F is right beside the E. On the A string, like the G and D, it's open, second, and then a third fret note again. B and C are close together. You won't spot this very easily on your own, but B's and C's and E's and F's are always close together. There's no fret between them, they're only 1 fret apart. If you look around the guitar, you notice everything else is 2 frets apart. F to G, A to this B, D to E, G to A, C's to D's. If this C to D is 2 frets, then this C to D must be a total of 2 frets. Even though we can't see it, we're crossing from one string to the other at that moment. G to A is 2 frets. This is called a whole step. So G at the 3rd fret here to this A is a whole step again. So we can see that that kind of pattern is showing us something. B's and C's are only a half a step apart. So are E's and F's. That's always the case. If we're using natural notes, this is the natural note scale. There's no sharps and no flats. We're just using the notes as they're named without putting a flat or a sharp sign in front of them. If we're using natural notes, B's and C's are a half step apart, and you see that here, so are E's and F's. That accounts for why when we learned our first string, we played the open E and the 1st fret F. Those were only a half step apart. We saw that when we went from B to C as well. So there was a discernible pattern there. It's just not what we thought was obvious at first. It's not that all strings go from open to 1st to 3rd when we're doing natural notes. It's that E and F and B and C are always 1 fret apart or 1 half step apart, regardless of where you find them. When I play here, I go from open E to 1st fret F, whole step to G, whole step to A, whole step to B. C's are right beside B's. Whole step to D, whole step to E, F's are right beside E's. Whole step to G, whole step to A. This one's a little weird. The guitar is tuned a little funny here. A is a whole step from this open B, half step to C, whole to D, whole step E, half step F, whole step G. I had one student who is foreign born listen to her son playing his scale. Which you should be doing, and naming as you go: E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E. You should be able to name them up and down, hopefully without that little hiccup that I just put in. And she said, that doesn't sound like the scales we do in India. In India, they sound more like this, and she sang. Indeed, that's exactly what her son was playing. It's just that we were doing a C scale, where C goes to C in 1 octave, because all of these are from the key of C, but we had leftover notes on either side, not because that's what we want our scale to sound like, but because those are accessible on guitar. So although the C scale would start on this C note and run up to the next C, Do, Re, Mi, Do, Ti, La, So, Fa, Mi, Re, Do. Do, Ti, La, So, Fa, Mi. We're actually just down well below the C. We've got excess notes in our inventory. So when you want to hear this, you should settle down and play from C to C. All the other notes are accessible to you, and they are part of the key, but if you want to package it in 1 octave, go from C to C to hear that we're actually in 1 key. So this is the key signature of C. All the notes are natural. That's saying the same thing. When you're in C, you don't have any sharps or flats. We're playing in open position because we're not leaving this area that includes the open strings. We've now actually learned what a major scale is. C to D is a whole step. D to E is a whole step. E to F is a half. F to G, G to A, and A to B are all whole steps, and we end with a half step. I'll get this one out of the way for a second. So by memorizing where the notes are on your guitar, learning which of those is a half step and which is a whole step, you can infer what a major scale is. It's whole step, half, whole step, whole step, whole step, half. To memorize it, I like to emphasize the extra whole step here. I'll go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Or some people say tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. The other way I'll say it to remember it is 2 wholes and a half, 3 wholes and a half. 2 holes on this side, 3 on that. Finally, what I actually think is the best way to see it is that we've got a whole half pattern at the beginning of the scale. And we have a whole half pattern at the end of the scale. Those two halves are linked by a whole step. So you've done whole half, you move up a whole step and do that pattern again, whole half. So it's whole half, whole, and then from there, whole half. That's a C scale, but this defines every scale. If I start on a different note, for instance the G, and I play these notes as, actually I'll start on this G because we ran into this. If we played the natural notes from G to G, we talked about that F not sounding quite right. That's because it violates the whole half pattern once I start on G. If I start on G, I would go G is a whole step to A, is a whole step to B, is a half step to C. That's good, that's where we needed the half step. C is a whole step to D, whole step to E, but that's only a half step to F as per this scale. We needed it to be a whole step. E to F sharp is a whole step, and G is the half step away. That doesn't sound quite right, it doesn't match the pattern. The F sharp satisfies the pattern when we started on G, therefore that's the major scale in G. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That will happen with every note you start on. You'll have to make an adjustment to make the whole half pattern work. And that's what gives you different key signatures where you have flats or sharps in the keys. Another interesting thing about this is that those half steps actually will be eliminated at different times. There's a scale I've mentioned called the pentatonic scale. Pentatonic, I'll remind students all the time when we're trying to think about it, 5-note scale looks like a pentagon with 5 sides. The way they get their 5 notes is they eliminate the half steps by removing certain notes. There's various reasons those half steps are removed. Some of them have to do with the overtone series, but what we really hear is that they just seem to clash a little bit. If I'm playing a C chord, and these actually developed vocally, so if you had a choir or a chorus singing all these notes, then certain notes fit in there nicely. C, D, and E, for instance. And the G's nice. Although we can get used to it, listen to how the F clashes with this chord. It's pretty crunchy. Here's the F again. That's because it's a half step away from a very prominent note in the key of C. That E note is in my chord. So they're too close and they crunch together. The same thing with the B note. If I'm playing a C chord and someone tries to sing the B note, there'll be a great deal of dissonance between those. We can use that to our advantage in certain sounds. Jazzy types of songs will do that, but it's not a natural note for a chorus to sing. So it's not like somebody sat down and wrote this out, it's just what became of the scale when people naturally sung together. Those notes just sort of fled away from the natural scale and the songs that were written around them. When you eliminate B's and F's, that's the 4th note and the 7th note of this scale, you get 5 notes left over. This is the pentatonic scale. The C pentatonic would go C, D, E, G, A, C. You'll hear I've Got Sunshine, My Girl. That's C major pentatonic. We came from the C major scale. We eliminated the 4th and the 7th because they were a half step away from chord tones. We created a pentatonic by dropping those 2 notes, so 7 notes went down to 5. A is the relative minor of C, and so this same scale is also an A minor pentatonic. Let me get the F out of there. So starting on A, So it can be A blues or A minor. If I play those notes during a C song, it will sound happier, it'll sound pentatonic major. So C major pentatonic, the major pentatonic has more of a country sound, the minor pentatonic has more of a blues sound. Nothing there is written in stone. The scale will have functions in both styles, in all styles in fact, but those would be sort of stereotypical places for it. That's C major pentatonic then, and A minor pentatonic, which does not have the B's or the F's. We were eliminating the 4th and the 7th because they created tension. Really briefly, because we saw it in one of our other songs, I'm going to create the G major pentatonic. This is now getting into too much theory for a beginner, especially where we are right now. I've gotten here in about 3 weeks of videos. This would probably be 3 to 4 months of your study, so it's something you can encounter, but I wouldn't be memorizing it. What I would memorize is what we had on the other page. Make sure you have the names of the open strings, and then can play all the natural notes. And that would be a daily practice with you naming them. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F, E. You could memorize right now that the key of G has F sharps, but really all you want to know is that when we go from key to key, it's that pattern that causes us to change our notes. Now we said for pentatonic, we have to remove the half steps. We have to remove the tension that's created by having this 4th note and this 7th note. So the F sharp we just devised has to go away in the pentatonic. We're left with this. If I start on G, you'll hear My Girl again. But now it's starting on a G note. G, A, B, D, E, G, G, A, B, D, E, G, G, A, B, D, E, G. That's going to be a G major. If I play the notes of that scale, it's going to have a bit of a country sound. A, G, B, G, D. A's, B's, and D's are in that scale. Again, because G is the relative major of E and E minor is the relative minor of G, this is also an E minor scale. It has both functions, both are equally popular, both are totally interchangeable. When I call it E minor, I will start with this E note. When I call it G major, then this G is the keynote. You'll hear it having both ideas in certain songs like Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. There's E minor, G, E minor, G. So there you can hear the same scale. I'm using the open A, the 2nd fret B, the open D, the 2nd fret E, the open G, the 2nd fret A. Just as you saw in Sweet Home Alabama. That pattern becomes something that guitarists really lean heavily on. This shape that we see, a note 3 frets higher, switch strings 2 frets up, switch strings 2 frets up, switch strings 2 frets up, becomes a template. That scale can be moved wherever we want. I've gone to an A note, so it can give me an outline for an A scale. I could go anywhere I like. Here's a C, same shape. Anywhere you move it, it's going to work. It's going to turn that area into a pentatonic minor based on the 1st note of my position. major based on the second note of the position. So again, you see, based on that note, it's major pentatonic, it sounds like My Girl. So what we want to know there is all the notes in the natural position, perhaps how a major scale is made, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, perhaps how to make a pentatonic, remove the fourth and the seventh so the half steps are gone, and then maybe memorize how to do them on the guitar. One at a time, learn the C, then learn the G. I do like to pile them up a little bit at times. As you could see with our patterns, sometimes you have to be able to compare 2 or 3 things to really figure out the patterns. If you only have one, you have to memorize it with brute force. When you have more than one, you can compare them and you can see how they're different, and that really helps us to memorize. This has gone too long now, but I am going to edit it down somewhat. Hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.